Before something bad happens or I completely just want to quit this, I thought, let's pivot, let's take a step back.
What's up, disgenerates? It's the disc golf world. I'm Jefferson, and alongside me as always, the one with all the holes in his game, Swiss Cheese. Breaking down a problem professional disc golfers face that Simon Lizotte brought to light after the Green Mountain Championships. We'll recap the event and all that too, but I didn't want the spoiler crowd to attack me for using Paul Page's name in the title. So now you get to hear me rant. However, I truly do think Simon is exposing an unspoken issue, mostly because he's one of the few in the position to actually speak up on it. I do promise we'll talk about GMC, but I'm not taking those clickbait comments, so I'm really diving deep into this problem. Honestly, because social media for professional disc golf is literally the thing I'm most passionate about, and I can't believe that's not a joke. Buckle up or skip here for the Green Mountain Championship recap. I don't really care.
We decided to stop filming during the tournament rounds. After round one here, I fell into a spiral of misery.
Before we can get into the conversation, hit that subscribe button. No, but for real, Simon is a big deal if you haven't already noticed, which means everyone wants a piece of him. From press conferences to practice rounds, then you have his additional content, which I want to express for the entire community. Thank you for what you've given us. But we as fans also have to recognize what Simon is about to explain.
Feeling burnt out from playing, feeling burnt out from traveling, feeling burnt out from making videos, and feeling a bit, I guess, conflicted in my mind a bit of what my job is in some sense, because sometimes I feel like my job is like 4 different things at once.
It's hard to realize from our perspective that every autograph, picture, camera, or whatever else affects him on the course. Simon is also not alone. Every single pro has to handle this to a degree, however, it's not as easy. I am definitely not saying the top professionals have a walk in the park. They still have work to do, but when you have cameramen, editors, directors, producers, writers, etc., it is much easier than the pro barely making cash trying their best to stand out on Instagram. Getting and then maintaining a sponsorship these days is a requirement to be active on social media. That's not going away anytime soon either. I believe a lot of the veteran pros will be taken care of for however long they want to ride out their career, although the contracts won't be getting any better unless they give a reason. But the next generation will come into the game with thousands of followers and understanding their life will have to be documented every step of the way. Tons of people don't want to live their life that way. And I understand that for some frisbee OGs, that philosophy is so backwards to the roots of the game. Then again, I'm not sure what they'd say about all the religious folks either. No shots taken, by the way. I'm genuinely curious what comments the dudes using discs as rolling trays would make. Unfortunately, the culture of society has changed, and for whatever reason, we decided to normalize any person to broadcast their life for the internet because, you know, money. Trust me, I fell into the scam. On paper, I can't fault manufacturers for putting their investment into someone constantly promoting their products. The only way they get publicity on coverage from a player is if they are at least in the top 10. Even so, all you're getting is the logo on their back, unless Nate Perkins is feeling frisky and dropping knowledge for the people. By the way, mad respect, homie. So why would these manufacturers not put their money into social media stars that will at least give them countless hours of content? Disc golf has a hack for their influencers too, because I've never met a disc golfer that turned down a free disc. They might never throw it, but they'll still take it home and add it to the ever-growing collection of plastic that'll never touch grass. Just like everyone who doesn't drop a like and subscribe to the disc golf world. Just an FYI.
Like halfway through, we stopped the daily vlogs thing because it was just too crazy of a grind. And now we want to pivot from the round recaps more to like back to the roots a bit, doing fun stuff, more off the course or off the tournament itself, kind of fun.
I'm glad that Simon knows when to stop doing something before he starts to hate life. For those that forgot, Lizotte started the season doing daily uploads on tournament weekends. After a good amount of time, they switched it up to a solid tourney recap and a few bonus videos when available. This was cool in my opinion because Simon showed he's not just going to make a video just to post a video. It's never about the money or just putting slop out. He really wants to provide the best content for the fans. That being said, he still had the power to put himself first for the remainder of the season as he is no longer doing round recaps. Which selfishly is a bummer because it was my favorite way to consume a round. His and Gannon's recaps have been awesome all season long. I think more professionals should grab a spectator and ask them to film every shot to do the exact same thing. I know that's gotta be pretty brutal. Who am I kidding? No, I don't. But I can imagine it's a whole nother set of pressure. Something that no professional needs, especially down the most important stretch of the season. It also happens to be the best way to get to know a player, by them explaining certain situations and their thought process behind their play on the course. Not often will fans get to see players not on leader chase card compete in a tournament, so how does the remaining 70 plus pros get noticed? Well, they don't. There's my solution. And you know what? There are people that have tried this before. I respect their efforts, but truly I can talk this up all day because I love it, but the consumers of disc golf content do not care. Seriously, look at Gannon Buhr, the #1 disc golfer in the world, and his views when it comes to recapping events versus his other videos. Same goes with Simon. Silas Schultz, no pun intended, easily puts out top 5 content in the game. Hands down. Yet this is what his numbers are compared to the 200,000 pro disc golf fan base. Now I will say that's the made up number I decided. You might be thinking, how did you get that number? Oh, well, thanks for asking. Well, when we look at the view count of Jomez, who I think we can all agree is going to garner the most amount of fans out of any other content, looking at the front 9 of the final rounds, you usually get somewhere around 150K. And then I'm going to throw an additional 50K that possibly could be watching exclusively on live. Although, based on these numbers, I would be willing to wager just about anything against that. Nevertheless, we come to 200,000, and that's not a whole lot of people. Another reason that manufacturers would rather spend their money on influencers that can push product to a wider base. There is a disproportionate amount of people that play disc golf but don't give a shit about the pro side, and that is the #1 problem I'm trying to solve, just like so many others in the industry. But I don't think that should fall on the professionals themselves. They shouldn't be the ones burning themselves out with all the extra stuff. Those are the things that should be handled within the company. I'm still confused how there isn't a media representative from each brand capturing content at all the events. Remember earlier when I was talking about how only the top 10 names get talked about? A solution to that is, I don't know, have someone recording your players then creating an entire team recap after each tournament. By the way, that is my pitch if someone's handing out money. I'll even double dip and do multiple companies at the same time. What can I say? I'm a man of the people, and I really want a job in disc golf. Please someone help a brother out. Or don't hire me and still do the idea, because it would be awesome for the people wanting to stay up to date on more disc golf. Because for some reason, we can't get enough. Alright, most of you have probably already skipped to the GMC recap by now, so I'll let you guys catch up. But don't think I'm done talking on the subject because I can go on for days. But Swiss, how about you save the people?
The action on Championship Sunday was one wild ride. You had not one but 2 chase downs, a 3-way playoff, some late luck, and final day storylines arguably desperately needed in the FPO. One that was certainly felt by some of the division's biggest name players at least.
Going to a playoff is like, it's bigger than me or Missy or Owen. It's like, it's for FPO. And I hope that, MPO is not a crazy story. I hope someone just runs away with it today so that the story can be FPO, because we deserve it. Like, everyone's out here grinding. We're fighting for cash.
Well, here's the thing. Paul won, so maybe not. But not to worry here, Paige. This Sunday's results, following Lott's departure from the sport and subsequent overreaction from the media, along with the disparaging and at times toxic comment section, just might have been enough to flip the narrative. And who knows? If not, maybe a cat merch Lady Disc Golf anthem could. It all began with Missy Gannon taking control from day one, as she would go on to blister Brewster with an 8 under and 2-stroke lead over Lisa Fakis and Owen Scoggins. Missy would follow that right up with another hot round on day 2, actually extending her lead from 2 to 4 after a 6 under, heading over to Fox Run where the scoring all but dried up on the difficult track. And difficult just might be a bit of an understatement here. Rather, it was a complete dumpster fire. And I'm not talking about Disc Golf World's on-site personality either. Of the 90 total rounds in the FPO over the final 2 days, only 10 finished par or better. Yes, 10 total. In fact, the rounds over the final 2 days resulted in a field where only 3, yes, 3, finished better than par over the 4-day event as a whole. And the only good news to come out of that stat was all 3 were able to make the playoff. But following an even round by Missy on day 3, allowing her a 6-stroke lead over Paige Pierce and an 8 over Owen still was enough of a dominating performance to keep the focus on Missy instead of those scores, who with this win could have made the Player of the Year race far more interesting heading to MVP where she's the defending champion. And that might have been exactly where many of you were looking towards with that lead. But you guys must have not have been paying attention to all the FPO action over the entire year, or for us for that matter. Because you guys should know by now, no final day lead is safe in the FPO, even ones held by big money Missy. And that's because Missy would go on to lose strokes to Owen or Paige on the first 7 holes. Paige was hitting from distance and birdies on holes that no other competitors had, while Owen was out there playing clean and picking up birdies herself. Gannon's lead would be cut in half during that stretch and didn't improve much from there, as she would only score a single birdie on her 4-over day. It was also this time where Paige had costly back-to-back double bogeys and another bogey following shortly after on 10 that put her all the way 5 strokes down on the outside looking in. At least that's what we thought. 10 was where Owen was able to pick up 2 strokes on both of her competitors and began her dramatic comeback, closing the gap altogether by gaining 4 strokes over the next 3 holes and earning a share of the lead altogether by hole 12. Here we all stood with 6 holes remaining, Missy and Owen tied, and Paige down a total of 4 strokes. Missy may have cleaned up the bogeys but rode a par train for the remainder of the round, and in large part was due to her putting, as she was unable to capitalize on 2 C1 edge putts in that span that could have given her the victory. Owen would bogey 13, then birdie the following before jumping on a par streak of her own, as both allowed Paige the opportunity to climb back into this race, which with a 55-footer for birdie on 13 certainly set the stage for the storybook finish. She followed that up with another birdie and a par after. But after missing a C1X birdie look on 16 herself, she would not only need back-to-back birdies, but also a little help from her competitors. And I guess some luck to push a playoff. Paige would hit 17, then came her drive on 18. That fortunately for her, somehow skipped off the OB bridge like Bird does on leg day, all the way up onto the fairway and still a chance to capitalize. A moment that was truly only missing a half-baked Philo 50-50 grind reference. Paige delivered, would go on to hit the birdie, push the 3-person playoff, and then decided to run back to the tee like she was entering the Royal Rumble. And that was understandable, as she was the only one of the 3 to birdie 18 over the 2 days. And she just didn't do it once, but twice. The playoff would end up being only a single hole. Missy's tough day continued by going OB right off the tee. Paige would not need the bridge this time and placed herself in a near perfect position, while Owen was left needing to take a tricky inside route for a birdie look. Scoggins' approach was near perfect. That was until it bounced from the circle all the way into C2, while Paige was out there playing catch with the basket and parked for birdie, only needing to wait to see if Owen could finally deliver herself. Sadly for the fans in attendance, she couldn't, and handed Paige her 3rd GMC victory of her career, and most importantly, her first Elite Series win on the season, extending her streak to 15 straight years with an Elite Series or higher victory in the second to last event of the year. A stat that was only on a few people's radar and rarely discussed. I mean, her streak wasn't nearly as closely watched or covered for that matter as Paul's or Ricky's current one this year, but certainly a streak with enough longevity that deserves the same gravitas and media coverage for that matter. But far more importantly for the FPO, this event was maybe just enough to put that lot discussion in the rearview mirror. At least let's hope so. That's enough for me, so let's send it back to Jefferson and wrap up the MPO action.
Over on the MPO side, Ezra Robinson came out blazing on Brewster Ridge with a hot 13 under that gave him a 3-stroke lead going into back-to-back days over at Brewster. It would be Cole Rodon who shook things up round 2, jumping up 8 spots. That wouldn't hold up, however, as the pros moved over to Fox Run for the weekend. Paul McBeth had plans of his own, taking control of the lead, shooting 12 down, including 2 bogeys. Gannon Burr still on lead card, but 7 strokes back of the lead. Paul Kranz found himself on lead card after a solid 3 days, and Cole Rodon just 2 strokes back with 1 more round to go. McBeth had a slow start in Championship Sunday, missing a C1 putt on the first hole and followed it up with another par. That allowed Rodon to close the gap, and on hole 3, we had a tied frisbee game. Paul would snatch back the lead the very next hole with a circle 2 putt to get the blood flowing. That was the motivation Cole needed to go on a 3-hole birdie stretch that actually gave him the solo lead. nailing a 42 putt on hole 5 in order to make it happen. They would keep pace with each other for the rest of the front 9, Cole holding on tight to his 1-stroke lead. That was until hole 9. Radulin went OB off his drive that would result in his first bogey of the round. Thankfully for him, Macbeth wouldn't connect on the circle 2 look, settling for a par, but that would tie the match back up. Not for long though. Staring down a long look for birdie on hole 11, Paul made the veteran play and laid out to ensure no lost strokes from a bad reaction. Cole, now 56 feet from the basket, pierced the putt in the heart of the basket, taking back the lead in style. Many thought that was the momentum he needed to pull out the win. However, that would not be the case, following up that impressive birdie with a bogey that would tie him back up with Paul. They both got the birdie on hole 13, but Macbeth would take the 2 on 14, giving him the lead once again and extended it on hole 16. Oh, and remember when I said Gannon was so far back to begin the final day, and there was like no way he would come back from that, right? After an 8-hole birdie stretch, he was doing his best to make a run. Unfortunately, he would miss a very uncharacteristic putt on hole 16 for birdie. Maybe Burr's kryptonite is Macbeth. Hopefully us as fans get to see more battles between the two. But for now, Paul Macbeth takes down his second event of the season, this time a 4-rounder. What do you guys think? Is disc golf better when Macbeth is winning, or are you Tyler Glass? And that's all you need to know from the Green Mountain Championship. Next weekend is the last dgpt event of the season, so make sure to subscribe to not miss out on the final recap. Don't worry though, we'll be at USDGC breaking down everything you need to know on the daily. So for real, subscribe to stay up to date with everything disc golf you need to know.